Hi, my name is Catherine. You can also call me Kat or Miss Cruz. I'm an artist and art educator, and today we're going to be talking about how to start a painting versus how to start a drawing. And there's no right or wrong way to start any artwork or anything, but this is just two ways to think about painting and drawing, and a little bit of how I try to kind of go about the difference between painting and drawing, but I also kind of merge these two things too. So, just wanted to kind of do a little overview for people like my mom out there who are trying to learn how to draw or paint and kind of want a little bit of the basics. So, that's what this is. Yeah, hope you enjoy. First thing before I get started, I'm going to grab this tape right here. I'm going to tape down my paper just so it doesn't move. Here's my picture, gonna have that right there. Okay, so the first thing I do when I look at this picture is kind of look at the corners and what's intersecting the corners. So right here, here, you know, these, blah, 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 all the way down. This is an interesting triangle to look at for shape, and then we can kind of see these shapes being made. So I'm going to take my 6B. So I'm trying to see, see this line comes right here, so I guess I went kind of high on that one. And then this one goes over here. Bop, bop, boop. This one's pretty thin. Looks like it's almost like more that way, doesn't it? And something like that. And then this one goes from here to here. See, look, okay, so this one is more there. Let me just... And then I'll start blocking out shapes. So I'll look at this pigeon, see his head. It crosses off right at the top of that. This intersects here, this wing here. So I'll find that line on mine. I'll think about how big he is. So this is kind of the base of him. And his head is right here that we know. So something like this. And at first I'm really just doing more shapes. I'm really looking at angles and things like that. So see, I'm looking at like the negative space here. So negative space, see how this figure takes up space, and then this is kind of like empty land or whatever. So this is negative space, but this part here, right here, is also negative space. So I don't want to fill that in too much, but that lighter area right there. So that's a good example for us to look at our work and say, there's a little scruffy right there, then goes his leg. The wing should be good like here, here, and I'm just kind of, I keep looking back and forth between what I'm doing, what I'm drawing. And then this little detail right there. Okay, so that's that. Here is a little acronym that I made so that you can kind of like think about when you're drawing. Gesture, look, light, shadow, white. So that's glow. So gesture is basically, it's a lot more obvious if you're working in person, I would say, or working with like a live model or an animal or something like that. Gesture is kind of about getting the vibe, the flow of the thing, but I would say a better piece, I'd probably go through and try to make a little bit more of a gesture for this guy. So like maybe kind of exaggerate like how he is with his like curves like this, you know, something like that. But gesture is all about like swoop, a little bit more loose, a little bit more emotional, not really like anatomically correct. Like this is gonna be a lot more flowy, a lot more quick. So you can just ignore that. So drawing is really all about just fixing these little issues that you find. So noticing that these angles are off from each other. You know, see this angle compared to this angle, my angles are a little bit off. Yeah, just fixing little minor things like that is all drawing is. Remember to look back and forth between your reference and the piece. Remember to think about where the light's coming from, what's light, shadow, and mid-tone, and then what are your white highlights. Let's talk about painting. Okay, so first, when you're painting something, you have your palette. And so we're gonna decide what colors we want. I think I'm just gonna keep this maybe black and white, just to kind of be simple on this one. Maybe I'll do a little bit of orange for the feet. Okay, so let's look at that in action. So first, force yourself to use a bigger brush. So for this piece, yeah, I guess this brush is good. Okay, so I'm gonna make a little bit of a mid-tone gray. I'm probably gonna need way more than that. And then I'm just gonna start blocking out. So like, we know that all this is gray. And from here about to, so see, I'm measuring these angles again. Get rid of the white as fast as possible is what one of my teachers said. We decided to do the background first for this one, so we just blocked out that background, just super kind of basic. Now I'm going to go onto a little bit of a smaller brush because the subject is smaller, but I still want to get something that has a little bit of size to it. So I don't want to go full dark with the pigeon yet. I just want like a nice mid-tone, like this will be nice. And then I can just start to block it in. So I know that his head is like at the top of this. So the cool thing about paint is like you can just paint right on top of what you just painted. So I'm taking a little bit of a lighter and I'm gonna go underneath so I can move this guy up a little bit. Okay, and then basically with brushes, I just keep going down in brush size. The more detailed you get, the smaller your brush gets. Now, also the cool thing about the paint, if it's still wet and there's something you don't like, if you get it wet, you can kind of wipe away part of it. So I like doing that sometimes. And then I would go through and add some detail for the ground, like this or something, to be like, oh yeah, that's speckly. Okay, so here are the final drawing. No, here's the final artwork, a drawing and a painting, and kind of what we learned throughout the process. So just kind of as a reiteration of everything, when I draw, I use the glow method, where you kind of quickly and loosely pick up the emotion and vibe from something through sketching. You're looking back and forth at the reference or subject and your own artwork. You're thinking about light and shadow, where the light is coming from, what is a mid-tone, what is a dark, and what is a light. And then finally, white highlights. So trying to keep the most white things pure white, and everything else has a little bit of a color. And then these highlights are really important, really make the piece feel realistic. Last thing about drawing, I would say, just remember you can always erase, and that is my savior. I love drawing. I consider myself more of a drawer I also think drawer is like such a weird sounding word. Painting. So, last thing to think about with painting, you start by blocking out the subject. So you go from big to small detail, and while you're making that transition, you go from big to small brushes. And also, when you're painting, you can think about the same things in the glow method. You can still definitely be thinking about light, shadow, highlights, color. I know pigeons have those iridescent spots on their necks that have like greens and purples. If I were to use more color in this one, that would be such a fun thing to add if I were to keep going with this piece. So that's kind of the last thing I want to say about painting. You can go so far with it. It's super fun. Plein air has been such a fun challenge for me lately, just going out in the world and trying to collect a painting of your experience. Just been super fun. So those are the pieces for today. I hope you learned something. I hope that was a little bit helpful in some way to somebody. Shout out to my mom. Thanks so much. If you've been liking my videos, you can subscribe if you want to, and you can also just like the video or share it or something. That would mean a lot. Yeah, hope you learned something. Hope you make something today. Thanks. Bye.